What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Open Ultra League with a triple buffed shadow team of Charizard, Flygon, and Garchomp. And as I mentioned in my Greatly Garchomp video, I felt Sand Tomb and Mudshot didn't pair very well together, so in this video I'm running Dragon Tail as the fast move. But on the Flygon save swap, I'm actually opting for Stone Edge, hoping to catch a few trainers off guard. Unfortunately, in the battles you see, it didn't really work out for me. Also, quick disclaimer, I think I might be the worst Charizard user of all time. I felt like this Pokemon is heavily reliant on baiting, which is something that I'm not super comfortable with, and also just loads of moments throughout the video where I had the Blast Burn, but I didn't realize it, or vice versa, and I ended up throwing the wrong move. It's not the best showcasing of what Charizard can do, but despite all of that, I still enjoyed using the team, and actually I had quite a lot of success with it. Anyways, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What's a Pokemon that other people swear by, but you can never seem to make it work? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Shadow Charizard into Empoleon. Now, Empoleon is actually probably one of the trickier Pokemon for me to deal with for this team. Of course, I'm no stranger to running Fire types and a Double Dragon backline. However, of course, usually that Fire type is an Incinerate user, which I can hit for neutral damage up against Empoleon. As well, my backline is usually going to resist the Water type damage rather than taking neutral like my backline here. Also, I swap into Flygon. The opponent gonna outpace me to the first charge move, as they can go straight for Chilling Water. I'm now gonna look to overfarm as much as possible, firing off the Stone Edge at the last second. Stone Edge is going to connect, it does decent damage, and it will actually force them to throw another charge move straight away, which is fine with me. They go for a Trailblaze, boosting up their attack stat, but that's okay. We can come back in with a Charizard, we can farm up to back-to-back Air Cutters, throw on CMP, and Air Cutter is going to grab the final shield. I'm also going to shield here. I expect the opponent to come back in with Empoleon, so I swap, I catch the charge move onto my Shadow Garchomp. The opponent goes for Hydro Cannon, that's fine with me, and now because I swapped out, I actually got the Dragon Tail through as I swapped, meaning I can barely outpace. Sand Tomb doesn't get the KO. I throw one Dragon Tail, putting them into range where a single wing attack will farm them down. They did overfarm, but they're not going to reach a charge move, and now Charizard has the opportunity to sweep. They come in with their final Pokemon, a Venusaur. All I have to do is make sure the opponent doesn't make a catch there, which they're not able to do. We can go for Air Cutter. Air Cutter gets the KO. We don't get the boost. It doesn't really matter. This is a Shadow Blast Burn. It one-shots the Venusaur, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We see Shadow Charizard into Shadow Ampharos. Of course, not a great matchup for me at all. I'm going to be swapping into Flygon, and I'm met with a Wall Rain. But wait a second, this is exactly why I'm running Stone Edge. Stone Edge is unfortunately shielded. What the heck? Why did they shield that? Oh, that is really sad for me. Now, we're going to go for a Twister. Twister is going to get them fairly low, but Wall Rain is still a pretty problematic Pokemon for me to deal with. It's unlikely that I'm running Water Pulse, so I will no-shield the first charge move, and let's see what Charizard can do. Icicle Spear is going to do decent damage. I can technically tank another one as well, so never mind, I'm going to shield this actually, but they swap back into Ampharos. Of course, I have to no-shield here. The opponent going to go for Trailblaze. That actually does quite a lot of damage there, but still, Volt Switches, they're triple resisted. They are never going to farm me down. We can go for a Sand Tomb. I throw on CMP. I win CMP as well, and the opponent is going to use a shield. I'm going to shield. They go for Brutal Swing, which means I can't really overfarm by too much. I'm just going to go straight for the next Sand Tomb, and Sand Tomb will guarantee the KO. The opponent's likely going to come back in. No, never mind. I was going to say likely going to come back in with the Wall Rain there, but nope, they come in with a Toucannon. I full send the Blast Burn, and can I outpace it? It's going to be close, but yes, we're able to do so. We get to the Air Cutter. Air Cutter gets the KO. I take out the Wall Rain, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. We see Galarian Moltres in the lead. So, the opponent's actually going to swap out straight away into a Shadow Zapdos. That is fine with me. We can come in with a Shadow Flygon. Also, yes, I do have Stone Edge. I actually don't think I'll need it for this matchup. I think we can just go straight for a Twister. Twister coming through. Twister gets the KO there. And let's see, they come in with an Articuno's, the opponent, running the Kanto Bird Trio, except with Galarian Moltres in the lead instead of the Kanto version. I'm going to shield here as they go for an Ancient Power. That would very easily one-shot me. me. And here is a scenario, like I mentioned in the intro, where I kind of just didn't really understand the pacing of the Shadow Charizard. So here, I'm going to shield this. I'm going to farm up as much as possible, and I'm going to throw back-to-back charge moves. But at this point, I've actually got an Air Cutter and a Blast Burn loaded. I need to throw the Blast Burn, but I don't. I throw the Air Cutter. I didn't realize I had the energy. That doesn't KO. We finally get a boost, but that is too little too late, unfortunately. Triple Axel gets the KO, and unfortunately, Garchomp still not even able to farm them down. They reach a last second Triple Axel. Triple Axel easily takes me out there. Double super effective, and I lose that game. But GG's opponent there is the next battle. I see Dust Noir in the lead. So a fairly neutral lead matchup for me, as we are going to see the opponent is going to go and throw straight away. So this gives me a wing attack in for free. That's fine. I'm going to no shield this. I'm going to go straight for the Blast Burn, and then if they shield, I will be swapping into my Shadow Flygon. The opponent is going to shield, and if they do overfarm here, this could be a Dynamic Punch. I'm going to shield anyways. The opponent is just going to bait with a Shadow Punch, but that's okay with me. I'm now going to look to farm up to back-to-back Twisters before throwing. Twister going to be coming through. The opponent not going to double shield, so we get the KO. And now they come in with a Zygarde. Now Flygon, pretty spammy here. We can actually reach back-to-back Twisters. First one, going to be no shield. It does big damage. Second one should be grabbing a shield from the Zygarde. But nope, they actually fully sacrificed it. And they come in with their final Pokemon, a Tentacruel. Now the opponent does not farm up to a Blizzard, so I can safely no shield here. Scald is not going to debuff my attack stat, it doesn't look like. We can go for Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb, not going to deal that much damage there, but it does drop their defense, and I should be able to reach 2 more Sand Tombs before they get to back-to-back Scald. So I shield the first one. We can now go for one Dragon Tail, throwing on good timing, firing off Sand Tomb number 2. Sand Tomb is going to grab the final shield, and we can outpace to a third. Sand Tomb number 3 takes out the Tentacruel, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's upon there into the next battle. I see Charizard into a Fortress. Now, Charizard weirdly has not the best matchup up against Fortress when they are on Volt Switch, as of course Volt Switch is super effective, and yes, Blast Burn is easily going to one-shot them, but they can go for Rock Tombs, which are also double super effective. The opponent's now going to come in with a Zygarde, and because they debuff me here, they can go for a full farm down, but not before I reach back-to-back Twisters, which the opponent is going to end up double shielding. Honestly, I don't mind that at all. I'm going to come in with my Charizard as they are loaded on energy, and of course, Outrage is going to deal huge damage into my Garchomp, but they actually go for a Bulldoze bait. I don't mind that at all. The opponent going to go for another Charge Move here. Again, going for the Bulldoze bait before swapping into Feraligatr, but all shields are down on their end. So I'm going to shield here. I'm hoping that after 3 more Dragon Tails, I will put them into range where Twister will KO. It's going to be close, but it is Shadow on Shadow. Twister does get the KO there. They come back in with the Zygarde just for me to reach another Twister. Twister also gets the KO. They come back in with the Fortress. They realize it's game over, and so they just concede the match. So, GG's upon there into the next battle. We're going to see another Fortress in the lead. So again, we're going to stay in just to see if they're on Volt Switch, and when we see that they are, we will be swapping into our Flygon. The opponent, again, just going to go straight for a Sand Tomb. I don't mind that. And again, going to come in with a Zygarde. So it looks like Fortress and Zygarde, pretty common pairing in the Ultra League this season. We are now going to go for a second Twister straight away. This time we did not grab a shield. The second one will, however, grab a shield, but again, they can go for a very aggressive Dragon Tail farm down. Now again, I'm going to come in with a Charizard here, as of course I can sponge the damage. Let's see this time, do they go for the Outrage? The opponent is going to full send it, and I actually shield it at the last second. Unfortunately, they're still going to reach another Outrage, but I can tank one. The opponent goes for Outrage number 2. They swap, and it's actually the exact same team, I believe. So at this point, I'm going to come in with the Garchomp. I'm going to no shield this first charge move, and the opponent is going to go straight for Scald. Scald, again, not going to debuff my attack stat, which is quite nice for me. We can go for Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb going to drop their defense, and I can go for a second Sand Tomb straight away. So Sand Tomb number 2 gets the KO there. They come back in with the Zygarde, but they actually didn't even get off the Dragon Tail. That is really nice for me, because if they got off the Dragon Tail, potentially they could Volt Switch farm me down, but now they are never in a million years going to be able to get a Volt Switch farm down. So they fire off the Sand Tomb. I can once again go for a Sand Tomb of my own. Sand Tomb, they're already debuffed. It's going to deal decent damage. It doesn't quite put them into farm down range. Well, maybe it does here. I think actually it does put them into farm down range, but I make a huge huge mistake. You can see I had back-to-back air cutters after one wing attack. I could have easily won that game, but I just forgot to throw there. I thought, oh, I'll just go for a full farm down, and we actually get a simultaneous KO and end up tying that game. But GG's opponent there is the next battle. You can see Ampharos in the lead, and the opponent's staying in here. So clearly, they don't have a great response to a Flygon save swap, which means hopefully they also don't have a great response to Garchomp in the back. So I'm going to shield here as the opponent is going to go for another Trailblaze. The Trailblaze doesn't really make a huge difference for them, however, as of course, double boosting up their attack stat when they've got a triple resisted fast move doesn't really help them, but we can go and outpace them. Twister gets the KO. We've still got a shield advantage, and they come in with a Greninja. Now, of course, Greninja is kind of neutral in this matchup here, so I do understand why they didn't swap it in, but we can come in with the Shadow Garchomp, and the opponent is going to fire off another charge move. Of course, this is enough for a Hydro Cannon, and they full send it, but their final Pokemon is going to be Skeledirge, and this is a comfortable matchup for the Garchomp. However, what I don't want to do is allow myself to put myself in range where Hydro Cannon KO. So actually, I'm going to bank the energy, come in with the Charizard. The opponent full sends the Shadow Ball, but that doesn't KO, and I'm also going to force him to throw another charge move. This way, I come in with Garchomp, I farm them down. I guarantee I have a move loaded for the Greninja coming back in, and of course, Twister from Shadow Garchomp gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there is the next battle. You can see Goodra in the lead. So, of course, not a great matchup for me. I am going to try and swap and catch a charge move. Doesn't work out for me. And so the opponent comes in with a Galarian Weezing, which, of course, not great for me. Usually, I would have ground type coverage for this matchup. So, I do end up grabbing a shield there, which I guess is something. But the opponent is now going to fire off a charge move. They go for Brutal Swing. That does not get the KO. And it doesn't quite put me into range where they can farm me down before I reach a second Stone Edge. So, Stone Edge, number 2, does get them very low there. And Charizard is just one away from a charge move. So they've got back-to-back Brutal Swings, I believe. Or sorry, back-to-back Sludges. But I can go straight for the Air Cutter. And this will deny the second charge move. Air Cutter gets the KO. I swap out straight away into my Garchomp. The opponent gonna choose to stay in here. They farmed all the way up to a Draco Meteor. It's just an Aqua Tail bait. And unfortunately, they're gonna have a Corviknight in the back. So this is definitely not what I want to see. Corviknight gonna completely wall me here. Stone Edge was sort of reason why I put it on my Flygon is full coverage up against Corviknight. Could also run Fire Blast on the Shadow Garchomp. However, I just feel like we're never going to get to a Fire Blast anyways. But either way, the opponent going to outpace me to the next charge move. I realize there is literally nothing I can do to win this game. So I'm just going to allow them to continuously spam out Air Cutters. Air Cutter number 4 or 5 at this point is going to be taking out the Charizard. And unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see a Malamar in the lead. So this is a neutral matchup here. I'm going to go straight for a Blast Burn. If they end up shielding this, I think I'm going to swap out into my Shadow Flygon. So yeah, of course, we are using an ABB style team. It is quite important to swap into the Flygon at some point in the lead if it's a neutral matchup, just to try and potentially bait out any hard answers to the backline, which Charizard can then hopefully deal with. However, the opponent is not swapping out of this matchup, so I'm going to go for Twister. Twister going to be shielded, so the opponent maybe not very strong into the Flygon in their backline. So you know what? I'm also going to double shield here. Just guarantee I take out the Malamar, and Twister from this range will be able to do just that. Now I'm looking to swap out straight away here. They're going to come in with a Steelix, but they're on Thunderfang, which is very positive for me, which is triple resisted once again. We can go for Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb not really going to deal too much damage. Of course, it does drop their defense, however. Earthquake is going to deal decent damage, but it's never going to put me into farm down range. So still pretty comfortable for me as we can go for another Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb going to get them very low, but not quite enough there. So I'm going to swap, catch the next Psychic Fangs onto my Shadow Charizard. Charizard should be able to wing attack, farm them down from this range. They're going to come in with a Tentacruel, and here, what am I doing? I go for Blast Burn, but I've actually got back-to-back Air Cutters already loaded. So could have just gone for the neutral moves there, dealt more damage. Honestly, like, I'm all over the place with my Charizard gameplay. Also, I couldn't quite remember if I banked a move on the Garchomp. So I come in, I sacrifice the Flygon, and do we have the move loaded? Yes, we actually do. So I didn't really need to do that. Could have just come back in. Twister gets the KO, and actually, potentially by coming in with the Flygon, we gave the opponent the opportunity to make a catch, which they didn't take, fortunately for me, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's up in there is the next battle. We're going to see Shadow Dragonite in the lead. So this is a neutral-ish matchup. They're probably going to have Thunder Punch for coverage. So I swap out. I try to catch a charge move, but the opponent has the same idea, trying to catch a charge move. And as a result, they come in with an Ampharos. They farm up to the Focus Blast. They actually full sent it there, which is a huge call on my end. I'm now going to go for a slight undercharge. And that is going to allow me to come out with back-to-back Twisters loaded. They're going to come in with Empoleon, which isn't really ideal for the Flygon because I'm not on Sand Tomb. But we can go for Twisters, and we can spam these at an alarming rate. So we go for Twister number 2. Twister, going to be no-shielded, and the opponent allows me to reach another Twister. But hold on a second. I can go for the combo play. We come back in with a Charizard, and we can reach an Air Cutter as well. And they are so low, their Air Cutter has to be shielded. We get the attack boost, and at this point, I'm definitely going to let the Charizard go down. Of course, Dragonite does have energy here, but I think if I come in with a Garchomp, I just no-shield this. As long as I come out close to a Twister loaded and I have a shield still in play, I should be looking fine. However, I cannot go for a full farm down, so I bank the charge move. I swap, I catch the next move onto Flygon. The opponent gonna go for an undercharge there, and that undercharge is the perfect undercharge, but it's fine. We've got the charge move loaded. That should be a CMP tie. We shield here. Superpower grabs the final shield, but wait, our move did not register, and the opponent had back-to-back. Superpower number 2 gets the KO, and we just got robbed of a win there in that game. But GG's to that trainer. Into the next battle, gonna see Fortress in the lead. The opponent's gonna stay swap into Zapdos, so I'm gonna come in with the Flygon. This time they are a non-shadow, so I don't think Twister will put them into range where I can farm them down before they get to a second Drill Peck. So I'm gonna full send the Stone Edge. Stone Edge is gonna get the KO there, which is very nice. The opponent's going to come back in with the Fortress, and this is fine with me. The opponent, of course, on Volt Switch, triple resisted. They're just not dealing any damage at all. And Sand Tomb also, even though it did get buffed this season, still not really going to deal that much damage here. So I'm going to no-shield this. The opponent goes for Sand Tomb. It doesn't KO, but they do snipe with the Guzzlord, which is a smart play. However, we can come in with the Charizard. And I'm just going to go for these Air Cutters. I'm hoping that eventually I'll put them into range where I can just Dragon Tail farm them down. So I'm going to no-shield here, as of course I can tank a Brutal Swing. We can go for one more Wing Attack, go for another Air Cutter, and then I will be swapping into my Shadow Garchomp. We grab the Fire Shield there from the opponent, and now I'm going to shield as well, as the opponent going to go for another Brutal Swing. They're going to swap back into the Fortress, but that's fine with me. We can go straight for Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb is going to debuff their defense, and it's going to put them into range where I can Dragon Tail farm them down. Also, this is just going to be a Sand Tomb of the road. It doesn't deal much damage. We get the Dragon Tail farm down. They recognize it's game over, and so they concede the match. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Galar and Moltres in the lead. They say swap into Raikou, and again, we can come in with the Shadow Flygon. I don't need to shield the first charge move, as they will go for an Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere is going to two-shot me. However, I wasn't entirely sure if Twister would KO from that range, so I do continue to overfarm, and now I will finally throw. Twister is going to get the KO, of course. The opponent's going to come back in, but are they expecting Stone Edge here? We are full sending it. Stone Edge, not respected. It does big damage, and the opponent is just barely going to reach a charge move. At this point, Fly going to get the KO. Their final Pokemon is going to be a Skeledirge, and this should be a pretty comfortable win for me. We can go straight for Sand Tombs here. Sand Tomb number 1 is going to be shielded. They're going straight for their charge move. I actually don't even need to shield this. The opponent is going to go for a Shadow Ball. Honestly, I don't know why I didn't shield that, but either way, I don't think it really matters. We can go for another Sand Tomb here. Sand Tomb gets them fairly low. We can come in with a Charizard, reach an Air Cutter before they get to the charge move. Air Cutter doesn't quite KO, but they realize it's GG's, and so they concede the match. So, GG's up on there is the next battle. We see Shadow Raikou, this time in the lead, so not great for me. Gonna be safe swapping into Flygon. They bank a ton of energy before coming in with a Clefable. Now I'm gonna go straight for Stone Edge here. Stone Edge does decent damage. It will be enough to two-shot them. However, the opponent is just gonna throw straight away, and they go and full send the Moonblast. So at this point, we're going to come in with the Charizard. I'm now going to look to overfarm, as presumably they've got Moonblast and Meteor Mash, meaning I do resist everything. So we're going to no-shield. Moonblast still does big damage there, but we can farm up, and this time I do realize I've got the Air Cutter and a Blast Burn loaded. So we go for the Air Cutter. They come back in with the Raikou, and I'm going straight for Blast Burn. Blast Burn is going to be shielded. We swap into Garchomp, but once again, they're going to have a Fairy type, and a Corviknight in the backline, and there's just nothing we can do here. Unfortunately, also, they came in the sort of like wrong order for me, as of course, Flygon did have the coverage with Stone Edge, but again, it baits out the Fairy type in that safe swap position. At this point, we go for Sandtomb first to debuff their defense. Twister now dealing decent damage, but again, they can just so comfortably outpace me here. The opponent going to go for another Air Cutter. Air Cutter is going to grab a shield. I swap back into Charizard, and I can reach a last-second Air Cutter, but not only that, that's a CMP tie. However, I needed to grab the final shield there. I'm not able to grab the shield, and as a result, that should be game over. The opponent should have another charge move already. I need to go for a full farm down. I'm never getting the full farm down here, but I'm going to try anyways. The opponent still going to outpace me to the next move, and of course, Aura Sphere takes out the Shadow Garchomp, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle to see a Talonflame in the lead. So, a fairly neutral matchup here. Of course, I do have neutral damage with my fast move. Incinerate is resisted, but it's such a great move that actually they're dealing pretty much the same amount of fast move pressure as I'm dealing to them. But we can go for back-to-back Air Cutters. Air Cutter number 2 doesn't quite KO there, which is unfortunate. I swap out, I catch a charge move, but I end up shielding anyways, and it was just a fly in the end. So, a bit annoyed about that, but they're going to come in with a Virizion. I'm going to overfarm just slightly here and fire off the Twister. So Twister is going to be no shielded. They fire off the Leaf Blade, but because I swapped out there, I can actually get to a second Twister on CMP and win CMP in this matchup, grabbing a shield back from Virizion. Plus, we still got a very healthy Charizard in the lead here, so we can come back in with the Charizard. They're going to swap out straight away into Malamar. I'm going to swap out and make a catch of the foul play onto my Shadow Garchomp. Of course, we don't need to shield that. We can now go straight for a Twister, and Twister is going to deal substantial damage in this matchup. Twister gonna be shielded by the opponent. The opponent committing to a farm down, but they're not gonna get there. Twister number 2 gonna get them very low, and the opponent still committing to a farm down, but it's actually Shadow Garchomp that gets the Dragon Tail farm down, and so I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there into next battle, another Fortress. I felt like Fortress was in like, I don't know, 30% of leads in the Ultra League when I was using this team, which is a bit annoying considering I've got a Fire-type Pokemon that really struggles against it, but then I've got 2 Dragon types that do surprisingly well into it. It's a bit strange, but either way, the opponent comes in with a Shadow Cacturn for the Ultra League, which is really cool to see. Props to them. We're going to go for a Twister. Twister is going to grab the final shield, and yes, they are boosted, but I should be able to tank a Dynamic Punch here, so going to no-shield this. Dynamic Punch still does big damage there. They come back in with the Fortress. I'm going to swap out as the opponent is going to fire off a charge move. The opponent going to go for a Rock Tomb first, debuffing my attack stat, which isn't ideal, and they can go for a second Rock Tomb if they really want to. And now, no, never mind, they go for Sand Tomb this time around. That's fine with me. We can go for Sand Tomb of our own, but we have been debuffed in our attack. It doesn't deal much damage there. I'm going to continue to overfarm. I can still no-shield this. However, Rock Tomb does get me very low. I'm not really sure why I didn't bother shielding there. We now come in with a Charizard. We can go straight for Blast Burn. Blast Burn gets the KO, but that final Pokemon is going to be a Shadow Malamar, and we do have a lot of energy, but we just don't have the HP anymore. Twister does decent damage, but we don't get to a second one. Malamar gets its revenge as it sideways farms down the Garchomp, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up in there into, I believe, the final battle of this video. A bit of a long one here, but we're going to swap out. I tried to catch a Thunder Punch onto my Flygon. Doesn't work out for me. However, we do have quite a lot of energy as they come in with a Greedent. I go for Twister. Twister does decent damage. It looks like it won't quite two-shot them here, so maybe I should full send a Stone Edge, but I'm actually just going to go for the Twister again. Twister, if they do end up shielding, or sorry, if they end up no shielding, I can shield once and then go for a full Dragon Tail farm down. So we shield there, they come back in with Typhlosion, but they don't throw straight away, meaning we can go for another Twister. Twister is going to be shielded, and the opponent is going to throw, but they have to full send a Blast Burn. The opponent goes for Thunder Punch, that is triple resisted, and it's just not going to deal enough damage. I'm now going to no-shield as well up against the Typhlosion. This time they full send the Blast Burn. It does big damage, but again, this is not going to KO if they Thunder Punch, which they do. We now come out with a Charge Move loaded. They likely come back in with the Greedent to just soak up the energy here, but we're going straight for Twister. Twister will get the KO, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Swampert. So this is still quite tricky for us, but I believe Flygon is one away from a charge move. So if I can grab the final shield with my Shadow Charizard, I should be able to win this game. Now we get the attack boost straight away, which is huge for me. That should mean that Blast Burn should threaten a shield here. So I'm going straight for the Blast Burn. Blast Burn, does it grab the final shield? Yes, it does. And the opponent gonna make sure I don't make a catch. They fire off the charge move straight away, but Flygon gonna survive 2 more mud shots worth of damage, reach a last second Twister. Twister gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.